Let's just finish our reviews today with Young Woman in the Sea. And this is a new movie starring Daisy Ridley as Trudy Ederle, the first woman to ever swim the English Channel in 1926. Now, Trudy, as in Gertrude.
Yes.
Ederle.
Lovely name.
But written down, you wouldn't think it says that, but it's Ederle. Now, I think what's quite interesting just going into this is that I was watching this film because I had an opportunity to speak to the director, Joachim Ronning, who's a very accomplished director. He actually made a film called Kon-Tiki, that was Oscar nominated for best film not in the English language in 2013-14. And then he's made films like Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and he's doing this, and he's doing the new Tron movie next year.
I hope he made so much money doing Pirates 5.
Yeah.
I hope he bought a huge house.
Yeah.
A boat even.
So he worked with Jerry Bruckheimer on that and on this, and next year he's making Tron Ares for Disney as well. But, I'll hold my hands up and say, a bit like when we talked about Bad Boys, when I was going to see this film, I thought, I think this feels a bit sleepy, a bit tame. Period piece, triumph over adversity. Yeah, there's a physical challenge, a single challenge movie.
Saw all its edges before you went in, maybe.
Yeah, and I thought, and it looked a bit Disney-ified, a bit like the edges slightly shaped off of it. I saw a trailer for it when I went to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I thought, And having seen it now, I think, again, it's a really interesting exercise in not judging a book by its cover and thinking every film has its place. But what is Young Woman in the Sea? So we begin in early 1900s New York, as I mentioned earlier, because of Joachim Ronning looking at Godfather Part 2. And it actually begins with this true life case I've never heard about of a steamship completely ablaze in the Hudson River. And this is a real life tragedy that happened in the 1900s. And Trudy Ederle, as a young girl, is looking out of her window. She's got measles. She's incredibly sick. And she's looking out at this burning ship right in the Hudson Bay. And it was a terrible tragedy in which over 1,000 people died, predominantly women and children, because they couldn't swim. And they were very close to the shore. If they jumped in and swam, they could have made it. But they didn't. And it was all in the newspapers. And Trudy's mother, who's very sort of headstrong, it basically says, you must learn to swim. This is very important. Trudy manages to get past the measles, but she always has this thing holding her back. So her sister, Meg, is able to go to swimming lessons in the pool, but they won't let Trudy swim because of her measles, because it can make her go deaf. So you have a situation where the mother is encouraging them to swim. Trudy must swim in the ocean and make swims in the pool. This is also an era of intense patriarchal and oppression and societal sexism, which is just, you're reminded of, women at the beach showing a little bit of ankle and the police coming along to tell them to vacate because it's just a little bit too much. Really frustrating things like that. It's also...
What year again, sorry?
We're talking early 1900s, culminating in the early 1920s. Trudy Ederle is part of a German immigrant family, and they bring with that slightly older European attitudes about what you must do with the family and who you must marry and what a woman's place should be. However, Trudy is insistent. Anyway, she becomes a very good swimmer, and before you know it, she's winning races, and she's been invited to the 1924 Olympics in Paris, and is also obsessed with this idea of swimming the English Channel, because she does that thing where, in the olden times, where you'd go to the cinema and you just go to watch the news footage. That's how people would watch the news. Also stars Sian Clifford from Fleabag, Christopher Eccleston, Stephen Graham, and Kim Bodiner, who people will know from Killing Eve, who plays Judy's father. So it ultimately builds up to her wanting to swim the channel in 1926, which had never been done by a woman before, had been done by two men. And of course, it's an era when people say, a woman can't swim the channel, for goodness sake. And, true enough that when she's, training to swim the channel, she's not even given the same food as the men, because they say, well, you need to look good for the magazines, you must look good for the press. Completely infuriating, insane stuff. Look, it has its cheesy moments, it has its cliches, it has its bit of melodrama, but from the get-go, it's clear that it's very well made. I was like, Joachim Ronning is clearly a very good director here, because every opportunity to show good craftsmanship filmmaking, it does that. The scenes in the water are very well done.
Pirates of the Caribbean,
it works. I was just actually quite early on realised, I'm in quite good hands here. Very competent director. And you know what? When it gets to that third act, when it's to do with the swim, and particularly the last 20 minutes, there were sniffles in my screening room. There were tears, and I was actually surprisingly really moved by the ending of the film.
Nice.
And I was like, I love that when a film surprises you. And I just came out thinking, who was I to think that I was better than this film? To think that I was
awful.
But it's true. It's like you really shouldn't judge things. Yeah. There is a film for every time. This film, perfect for a Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea. Yes. Okay, that's all it is. It's not the best film in the world, but it is better than you'd think. It has a really good moving, final third. It's got great supporting actors in it, and I was surprised. So don't ever write something off just because you don't think it's your film. I'm actually quite glad I saw it.
I'm really happy to hear that, because I would have also subconsciously maybe prejudged it and just let it pass me by.
Yes.
But to hear that it is actually very good,
Yeah.
it has a real good place at a certain moment in time. Great.
Yeah.
As always, guys. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just saying because often we go see things in these screening rooms, sometimes you think, I just can't wait to get, and I thought, no, I'm enjoying my evening. I'm glad my evening
Nourished.
is being watching this film. I came out feeling good, which
Nice.
is wonderful. So that is Young Woman in the Sea. Daisy Ridley, also great, and I'm glad that she's been able to sort of, branch out of her career. A lot of the film was shot in the open water, and that's why I spoke to the director about, which you can see on social media. Shooting on the open water is very difficult, and Daisy Ridley trained for 3 months to be like an Olympic swimmer, and she's swimming in the open water, not in a wetsuit, but in like the 1920s fabric and exposed skin. So
I would have those like sticky heat patches.
yeah.
all under my suit just to keep me warm.
That was Young Woman in the Sea.
If you guys had thoughts on, you wanted to also send in your review of Young Women in the Sea, please, as always, send in your thoughts, questions, concerns to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, and we will read them out on the show.